The CEO was alone on Christmas, until Triplet girls left him a letter that changed everything. New York shimmered in December's chill, wrapped in garlands and golden lights. The city pulsed with holiday magic. Children pressed their noses to toy store windows, couples skated beneath the lights at Rockefeller Center, and every corner seemed to hum with carols. But high above it all, in a glass tower in Midtown, one space remained untouched by the season's warmth. HeartTech's headquarters was a monument to precision, sleek, modern, and immaculate. On the top floor, behind seamless glass doors, was the CEO's office. Spacious and spotless, it exuded silence and control. No holiday decor, no blinking lights, just a chrome clock ticking softly and the hum of monitors. Daniel Hart sat behind his desk, reviewing projections on one screen while a muted news broadcast played on another. 32 years old, dressed sharply in a tailored suit, he embodied the image of a man who needed nothing and trusted no one. Brilliant, calculated, cold. People called him visionary. No one called him warm. He glanced at the time. Nearly 6. The building had begun its descent into holiday quiet hours ago. He reached to shut down his system when the intercom crackled. "Sir," came a voice from the front desk. "Something from PR. Part of the letters to CEO Santa thing." Daniel's brow furrowed. "Still doing that?" "It's tradition now. Employees' kids send in letters. Just a fun PR campaign. Marketing picks some to read at the holiday party. I'm not attending. I figured, but they sent them anyway." A few minutes later, the elevator opened. A junior assistant entered, slightly flushed, holding a bundle of colorful envelopes tied in silver ribbon. Daniel accepted them with mild irritation, setting them aside without much thought, until his eyes landed on the top envelope, pink construction paper, glittery stickers, and a child's wobbly handwriting. Curious despite himself, he opened it. "Dear CEO Santa, we are Lumi, Lyra, and Livia. We are 6. We are triplets. Our mommy says Santa is real even when we cannot see him. But we think maybe he forgets her every Christmas. She is very good. She works a lot. She sings us songs even when she is tired. She gives her soup away when someone else is hungry. We do not want toys this year. We just want mommy to have a new blanket, because the old one has holes. Also, we hope maybe someone can tell her a story on Christmas Eve. She tells us stories every night, but no one tells her any. Love, Lumi, Lyra, and Livia." Daniel stared at the letter, thumb resting on a smudge of glitter. Something about the handwriting, the careful way they spelled mommy, sent a strange ache through his chest. He almost put it down, but then he read the last line. "Her name is Amara Grace." He froze. The world went utterly still. "Amara," he murmured, the name barely a whisper, but it echoed. He rose from his chair, the letter still in hand. Through the vast windows, the city glowed beneath him, but Daniel no longer saw it. In his mind, snow was falling on cracked pavement. A hallway buzzed with fluorescent lights. A girl with golden hair leaned close to whisper fairy tales to a boy who didn't know how to dream. She had been the only person who saw him, who defended him when no one else would. His only friend. He had promised her, once, long ago, with all the conviction of a child who had nothing else to give. "If I ever get out of here, I'll find you. I'll come back." But he never had. Until now. The following afternoon, the city buzzed with the energy of last-minute Christmas shoppers, the streets dressed in wreaths and lights. But Daniel Hart sat in the back seat of his dark sedan, far from the high-rise towers and holiday galas he usually avoided anyway. The letter had not left his pocket. Its return address was scribbled in purple crayon at the bottom of the page. A worn-down zip code, a building number barely legible under a sticker shaped like a snowflake. But it was enough. He dismissed his driver at the edge of an old residential block on the city's outer edge, the kind of place where sidewalks cracked and porches sagged under years of snow. Daniel stepped out into the cold, his breath forming white clouds in the air, his coat collar turned up against the wind. He spotted the cafe from across the street, small, tucked between a laundromat and a shuttered bookstore. A handmade sign hung above the window, painted with fading brushstrokes, willow and bean. Through the frosted glass, golden light spilled onto the sidewalk. Inside, a few customers lingered at scattered tables. The bell above the door jingled softly as he stepped in. Warmth greeted him, along with the scent of cinnamon and something faintly citrus. Behind the counter stood a woman in a simple sweater and apron, her blonde hair tied back in a loose bun, a few wisps falling to frame her face. She moved quickly, expertly, pouring coffee, wiping the counter, offering a smile to each patron. Her posture was tired, but steady, and when she turned to grab another mug, Daniel felt the breath leave his body. Those eyes, that face, just older now, weathered by time and life, but unmistakably her. Amara. She did not see him right away. She was speaking softly to an elderly customer when he noticed the far corner of the cafe. 3 little girls curled up on a makeshift daybed, each wearing matching pink dresses under woolen coats. One had her thumb in her mouth, another clutched a picture book. The third stirred slightly, shifting closer to her sisters in sleep. Lumi, Lyra, Livia. He recognized them from the handwriting in the letter. Daniel stood motionless, watching. There was something fragile about the moment, something sacred. The sound of the espresso machine, the twinkling lights strung along the walls, the snow beginning to fall heavier outside, it all seemed to blur around her. Amara laughed quietly at something the old man said. She wiped her hands on her apron and turned again, and this time she saw him. For a moment, her expression froze. Her eyes flicked toward him, studying the suit, the sharp jawline, the dark eyes, and then dismissed him, as if assuming he was just another stranger grabbing coffee on his way somewhere more important. She did not recognize him. Daniel lowered his gaze and stepped back, choosing not to order anything. He turned toward the door, heart thudding hard in his chest. She had been the only one who ever stood up for him. The girl who sat next to him in the dining hall when others whispered that he was strange. The one who patched his scrapes with band-aids from her own pocket. The one who promised she would wait, even if the world forgot them both. And he had never come back for her. Outside, snow had begun to fall in thick, lazy flakes. The wind picked up, dancing around streetlights as Daniel stepped out onto the sidewalk. He walked to the corner, then paused. Behind him, the cafe lights blurred through the snow. Inside, Amara moved past the window, gently tucking a blanket around the sleeping girls. She leaned down and pressed a kiss to one of their foreheads, her face soft with love and fatigue. Daniel stared. That letter had come to him like an accident, a joke from the PR department. But now he knew better. This woman, this mother, had once given him more kindness than anyone else ever had. She had lit a small spark in his dark childhood. And now, standing in the quiet swirl of snow, Daniel whispered to himself, "If she once brought light into my world, then it is my turn to do the same for hers." The apartment building sat at the edge of an old industrial block, run down, drafty, but still standing. From the outside, there was nothing festive about it. No wreaths on the door, no twinkling lights in the windows. Just layers of snow clinging to the fire escapes and ice gathering in the corners of the stoop. But that morning, something changed. When Amara Grace opened her apartment door, the world felt briefly suspended. There, on the worn welcome mat, sat a brown paper package wrapped with a thick red ribbon. No name, no delivery tag, just a small lavender-colored card tucked beneath the bow. She blinked in surprise, then crouched to pick it up. Inside the box were several things. First, a soft, thick knit blanket in creamy white, stitched with 3 names in delicate cursive: Lumi, Lyra, Livia, embroidered along the corner in pale gold thread. Second, a small tin of handmade cookies, the kind Amara hadn't tasted in years, gingerbread stars and cinnamon twists, still warm to the touch. Third, a hardcover storybook, its spine familiar, its illustrations classic, the Winter Tales collection. A piece of childhood, a ribbon marked a page halfway through. When she turned to it, a note fell out. It was written in purple ink, the loops of each letter steady and neat. Your mother deserves to smile." There was no signature, no explanation, no hint of who had left it, just the message and the warmth that lingered in its silence. "Mama, look," Lumi cried, running up behind her in pink pajamas and thick socks. Lyra and Livia followed close behind, eyes wide. "Is it from Santa?" Lyra asked, reaching for the blanket. Amara knelt on the floor, speechless, as the girls tugged it open, wrapping themselves together beneath it. "It has our names," Livia whispered in awe. He remembered. The cookies were opened, the book flipped through with giggles and exclamations. The three girls, once sleepy, now glowing, danced around the living room like they had been given a kingdom instead of a gift. And Amara? She sat quietly on the couch, her eyes wet, heart full and unsettled all at once. This was not magic. This was someone who knew. She glanced toward the small stack of letters on the shelf. The ones the girls had written to the CEO Santa after hearing the story from a coworker at the cafe. Amara had humored them, let them write their silly wish. She had even helped address it. But now, she wasn't so sure it had been silly at all. 2 days later, the cafe bustled with the usual late afternoon crowd. Snow flurried outside, turning the windows into watercolor paintings of light and frost. Amara wiped down tables, humming under her breath, when the bell above the door jingled. A man stepped in. Not flashy. No tailored suit this time. Just a thick coat, scarf, and a quiet presence. He carried a small box of supplies and a red badge clipped to his coat. Volunteer reader. Holiday Storytime Program. "I heard you could use an extra set of hands this week," he said, voice calm. Amara blinked, caught off guard. Yes, I suppose. The kids love story time. You can speak with Mrs. Collins at the register." Before she could finish, 3 little voices rang out. "It's him," Lumi shouted. "The one from the storybook night," Lyra added. "He has Santa eyes," Livia whispered as she marched up and tugged at his sleeve. "Are you like a helper elf or something?" Daniel knelt down to her level, smiling. "Do I look like one?" Livia studied him with narrowed eyes. "Kind of, but taller, and not so glittery." Behind them, Amara stepped forward, her cleaning rag forgotten in one hand, her gaze locked with his. His eyes held hers gently, as if afraid to speak too soon. And then, softly, he said, "You once promised to read me fairy tales every Christmas. Do you remember?" Her breath caught. That voice, that memory, that sentence. Time folded. Daniel Hart, the boy from the orphanage library, the one who used to sit with his knees pulled to his chest, listening to her voice like it was the only sound in the world. She covered her mouth, stunned. "Daniel," she whispered. He nodded, slowly, and suddenly, everything made sense. The blanket, the cookies, the letter, the silence. It had never been Santa Claus. It had always been him. The little cafe had quieted after the dinner rush. Outside, snow blanketed the sidewalks, glowing softly beneath the orange street lamps. Inside, warmth lingered, cocoa, cinnamon, and the fading echoes of children's laughter. Amara and Daniel sat at a corner table, an old teapot between them, mismatched mugs in hand. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was thick with years, memories, and all the words that had never been said. Amara finally spoke, her voice unsure. "I still can't believe it's you." Daniel gave a soft smile. "Neither can I." "You look," she hesitated, then laughed lightly, like someone who has his face on a magazine. He raised an eyebrow. "That good or that bad?" "A little of both," she teased. "I never imagined the boy who used to hide in the library would end up owning half the city." Daniel's smile dimmed. He looked at his hands. "When I got adopted, they moved me right away. Different state, different school. They wanted a clean slate. I wasn't allowed to keep in touch." Amara's face softened. "You could have written." "I did. I just never sent them." He met her eyes. "I was afraid you wouldn't remember me. That scared me more than anything." "I never forgot you, Daniel." He gave a faint smile. "I guessed that when I read your daughter's names." She laughed. "They're my whole world. I can see that." For a few moments, they weren't adults shaped by life. They were kids again, hiding behind dusty curtains, reading stories by flashlight. "Remember the rainy nights?" Amara asked. "When we'd sneak into the reading room and you made me promise to read fairy tales?" "You always changed the endings," he recalled. "Well, the originals were too sad," she said, smiling. "I liked stories where the lonely boy finds his way home." Daniel looked away, swallowing hard. Maybe he did. Just then, the sound of tiny footsteps echoed from the hallway. The triplets returned in pajamas, cheeks flushed from warmth. "Mama, can Mr. Daniel stay for dinner?" Lumi asked. "We made soup," Lyra beamed. "It's from a can," Livia added solemnly. "But Mama made toast. It's kinda black." Amara glanced at Daniel, offering him an easy out. But he smiled. "I'd love to." They squeezed around the small kitchen table, 5 people, 2 bowls short, and more joy than space. The meal was humble, canned soup and burnt toast. But for Daniel, it was the most comforting dinner he'd had in years. The apartment was modest, peeling walls, mismatched furniture, and a tiny tree covered in paper ornaments. But it was full of warmth, of life, more than his sterile penthouse had ever been. When it was time to leave, Daniel stood at the door, unsure what to say. Before he could speak, Lyra tugged at his coat sleeve. "Wait," she said, slipping a folded note into his hand. He unfolded it slowly, expecting a child's drawing. But it was a letter, written in pink crayon. "If Mama doesn't have anyone to hug on Christmas Eve, would you hug her for us?" Daniel's breath caught. "She hugs us all the time," Lyra explained. "But sometimes, she looks like she needs one too." Daniel crouched to meet her eyes. "I'll try," he said quietly, "if she lets me." Satisfied, Lyra skipped away. Amara stood near the door, eyes bright with unshed tears. Daniel gave her a gentle nod. "Good night, Amara." "Good night, Daniel." Then he stepped into the falling snow, the letter still in his hand. And for the first time in years, something stirred inside his chest. Not fear, not regret, but hope. Snow drifted in slow spirals over the estate gates as the car rolled up the long drive. The mansion ahead glowed with warm golden lights, soft against the blanket of white. Daniel stood at the entrance, hands tucked in his coat pockets, waiting. The front door opened before Amara could knock. She stood there with Lumi, Lyra, and Livia, bundled in pink coats, cheeks flushed with cold and wonder. Her own face held something quieter, a mix of hesitation and awe. "You really didn't have to," she said softly. Daniel offered a careful smile. "I know, but I wanted to, for them." He nodded to the girls, now spinning slowly in the grand marble foyer, eyes fixed on the chandelier. "Welcome," he added, stepping aside. Amara hesitated for a moment, then brushed snow off her shoulders and stepped inside. "They've talked about this all week. I'm glad they're here." The house, though elegant, wasn't overwhelming. Daniel had kept it simple. Pine garlands, soft candles, a modest tree decorated with handmade stars and delicate ornaments. There was warmth here, not from wealth, but from intention. Upstairs, a room had been prepared for Amara. Ivory linens, a small vase of fresh flowers, and an old bookshelf lined with well-loved paperbacks. At the foot of the bed lay a familiar quilt, faded but lovingly preserved. Amara touched it gently. This was hers. Daniel appeared in the doorway. "My foster mother's. She never let anyone use that room after she passed. I thought, maybe it was time." Amara looked at him, her expression unreadable, but deeply moved. Downstairs, the girls explored like they had entered a storybook. In the dining room, they gasped in delight. On the long table sat 5 steaming bowls. "White radish soup?" Amara blinked. Daniel shrugged. "You used to make it at the orphanage. I tried to follow your recipe." She laughed softly. "It smells better than mine ever did." They ate together by candlelight, with soft holiday music in the background. The girls chatted endlessly, asked Daniel questions about the fireplace, the piano, the paintings. They declared the soup tastes like snowflakes and hugs. After dinner, they gathered in the library by the roaring fire. Daniel selected a story, The Snow Queen, and settled into an armchair. The girls huddled in front of him, wrapped in blankets, eyes shining. From the hallway, Amara leaned silently against the doorframe, arms crossed, a gentle smile on her lips. Daniel read slowly, his deep voice carrying images of winter kingdoms and brave hearts. The girls listened intently, then, one by one, began to drift into sleep. Lumi curled into Lyra. Livia fought to stay awake, blinking at him. "You sound like the prince," she whispered. Daniel chuckled. "Not sure I'm that noble." "You are to Mama," she murmured, before her eyes finally closed. He lifted them one by one and carried them upstairs, tucking them into a guest room prepared just for them. 3 small beds side by side, fairy lights along the ceiling. When he came back, Amara was still there, sitting quietly near the fire. "You didn't have to do all this," she said, voice low. Daniel sat across from her. "I wanted to." She studied him for a long moment. "You don't owe me anything, Daniel. We were just kids." "I'm not trying to make things right," he said gently. Her brow furrowed slightly. "I'm not here to fix the past," he continued. "I'm here because once, a girl made me believe in something I thought I'd never have. I told myself, if I ever had the chance, I'd return that light." Amara's throat tightened. She looked away, blinking fast. "I'm not making amends," he said softly. "I'm keeping a promise." The fire crackled. And in that quiet moment, with the scent of soup still in the air and soft snow falling outside the windows, something shifted. Not loud, not grand, but real. The snow that winter came early and stayed longer than anyone expected. Frost kissed every window pane, and rooftops wore thick white blankets like slumbering giants. In Amara's quiet neighborhood, mornings began not with alarm clocks, but with the soft crunch of boots on snow. Daniel had become a regular presence, not overwhelming, never intrusive. He came without fanfare, never stayed too long, but always did something that mattered. Some mornings, Amara would open her door to find a warm loaf of bread resting on the stoop, wrapped in brown paper and tied with twine. Sometimes it came with a handwritten quote from a fairy tale. "Even the smallest light can warm the coldest night." He fixed the drafty window in the girl's bedroom, left mittens on the porch from a forgetful elf, and once showed up during a heavy snowfall to help the triplets build a snowman family, complete with pebble eyes, carrot noses, and scarves. Daniel said once belonged to his childhood teddy bear. The girls adored him. He taught them how to pack snowballs that did not fall apart, how to spot fox tracks, and how to stir cinnamon into hot cocoa just right. But Amara kept her distance. She watched from behind windows, through half-open doors. Her heart, long accustomed to silence and self-reliance, did not know what to do with someone like him, someone who showed up, who stayed, who asked for nothing. There were moments when she caught herself smiling, moments when her fingers almost reached for his, when her laughter came too easily. Then she would remember who he was, and who she was not. One afternoon, while cleaning a bookstore downtown, Amara slipped on a wet patch near the service entrance. Her feet flew out from under her. Her head hit the ground with a sickening crack. When she opened her eyes again, she was staring into the blinding white of a hospital ceiling, and the first face she saw was his. Daniel sat at her bedside, elbows on his knees, his coat draped over the chair. His eyes were red-rimmed. His hand was wrapped around hers gently, as if afraid to squeeze too tight. He did not speak. He was just there. "Where are the girls?" she croaked. "Safe," he said. "My driver picked them up. They're with a nurse. I read them 3 chapters of The Velveteen Rabbit over the phone." A tear slipped from her eye. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" Daniel asked. "For needing someone." Silence. Then, quietly, without armor, she confessed the thing buried deepest. "I'm afraid. I don't deserve to be happy." The words broke the air like cold wind through a crack in the window. Raw, sudden, real. Daniel didn't flinch. He brushed her hair gently from her forehead and leaned in. "Then let me believe for you," he said, "until you can believe for yourself." She blinked up at him, lashes wet. "Why would you do that?" His voice was steady. "Because once, you believed in me when no one else did, and I've never forgotten how that felt." Amara turned her head slightly and rested her cheek in his palm like it was the first soft thing she'd touched in years. They stayed like that. The heart monitor beeped softly in the background, steady and sure. Outside the hospital window, snow fell again, thick, silent, and forgiving. And inside, in the hush of that small, sterile room, something finally began to thaw. The idea came quietly, over tea and snowflakes, while Amara rested at home with her wrists still bandaged and the girls bundled together on the sofa, drawing pictures of princesses and dragons. Daniel stood by the window, looking out over the street dusted in white. Then he turned to her, almost hesitant. "What if," he said, "there was a place where stories were always waiting to be heard, a place just like that old library at the orphanage?" Amara tilted her head. "A library?" "A small one," he nodded. "Community run. Just a few shelves, a reading corner, warm lighting, maybe some cushions on the floor, and someone to read to the children who feel like the world forgot them." Her lips parted, surprise softening her features. "I thought of you," he added. "You always knew how to make stories feel like magic." It took a moment for her to respond. "Daniel, that's kind, but I can't accept something like that. It would feel like charity," he guessed. She gave a small, embarrassed nod. "Or a favor I can't repay." Before he could answer, a voice piped up from the couch. "Mom." Lumi sat up, pigtails bouncing. "If Santa wanted to give books to everybody, would you say no?" Amara blinked. Then Lyra chimed in, "Books are like hugs you get to keep forever." And Livia, serious-eyed, added, "And if someone gives you a hug, it is rude to throw it away." Amara laughed, startled by her own tears. The girls had that effect on her, reminding her of truths she had long forgotten. She looked back at Daniel. "You're sure this isn't just one more way for you to fix something you don't have to?" "I'm not fixing anything," he said. "I'm helping you build something you already carry." And so, she said yes. The little library opened in a quiet corner of the neighborhood, nestled between a laundromat and a corner grocery store. It was barely more than 2 rooms, but it glowed with warmth plush rugs, donated books lining handmade shelves, hand-drawn murals of stars and woodland creatures climbing the walls. Daniel was there every day during the renovations, rolling up his sleeves, painting walls with the girls, assembling furniture with instructions more complicated than a tech schematic. One afternoon, he and Amara spent hours hand-painting the names Lumi, Lyra, Livia, in golden cursive across the back wall of the reading corner, just above a mural of a tree with books for leaves. Underneath, in smaller letters, "The Storyteller's Nest." "You know," Daniel said, placing the final dot on an I, "this feels more important than any product launch I've ever done." Amara looked at him, soft golden hair tied loosely behind her neck, paint smudged on her cheek. She did not speak. She did not need to. Their eyes met, and in that look, years of unspoken questions found quiet answers. He stepped a little closer, just enough for her to feel the warmth between them. And though no words passed between them, there was something certain in the silence, something growing. It was not a dramatic confession, not a grand kiss in the snow, just 2 people, once broken, now building. Together. Snow blanketed the quiet neighborhood like a soft lullaby. Fairy lights twinkled along rooftops, casting a golden glow on the little library that now stood as a beacon of warmth and wonder. Inside, laughter bubbled from children curled on cushions, their eyes wide as Amara read the last line of a fairy tale. "And they lived happily ever after," she finished softly. 3 familiar voices chimed in from behind her. "Just like us, right, Mama?" She turned with a smile. Lumi, Lyra, and Livia stood proudly in their matching pink dresses, each wearing a little badge that read, "Honorary Librarian." They had been helping sort picture books all afternoon, occasionally sneaking in to test read their favorites. Amara gathered them in a hug, kissed the top of each golden head, and whispered, "Exactly like us." Outside, the night deepened. Fresh snow had begun to fall. As the last families left the library and the girls helped turn off the lights, Amara stepped outside, hugging her coat tight. The air was crisp, cold, but peaceful. She watched her breath curl in the air like smoke from an invisible fire. Then she saw it. In the middle of the snowy courtyard, someone had lit a circle of lanterns, small, golden flames flickering beneath glass. In the center stood Daniel. He wore his dark coat, no gloves, snow clinging to his hair and shoulders. But his eyes, they burned warm. Amara stepped closer, confused but smiling. "What are you up to now, Mr. Hart?" He smiled back. "Finishing a story we started a long time ago." Lumi, Lyra, and Livia skipped out behind her, immediately enchanted by the glowing lights. "Is it a game?" Lyra whispered. "No," Daniel said, dropping to one knee in the snow. "It's a question." Amara froze. Her hands flew to her mouth. Her breath caught. From his coat pocket, Daniel drew out a small velvet box. Inside gleamed a delicate ring, its band engraved with 4 names: Amara, Lumi, Lyra, Livia. "I spent most of my life thinking winter meant loneliness," he said, voice steady. "But you and the girls, you turned it into something I want to run toward, not away from." He looked up at her, his voice softening. "Amara Grace, you once gave me hope when I had none. You told me stories when the world gave me silence. You reminded me who I am. I do not want another Christmas or another day without you and the girls in my life." The girls clung to Amara's coat, eyes wide, whispering excitedly. "Is this the part where he kisses her?" Amara laughed through her tears, her heart aching in the most beautiful way. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Daniel." He rose, slipping the ring onto her trembling hand. The girls squealed, throwing their arms around his legs and shouting in unison, "We have a real Santa now!" Daniel knelt again, hugging all 3 of them at once, and Amara joined, wrapping her arms around the little family they had become. Snow fell gently on their shoulders, lanterns flickering around them like stars that had come to witness the moment. In the hush of Christmas night, under the same sky they'd once dreamed beneath as children, the story that had begun with a forgotten letter finally found its perfect ending. Happiness does not always arrive on time, but when it comes you will know, because it feels just like a fairy tale you never dared to believe could be real. Thank you for joining us for this heartwarming journey of second chances and unexpected love. If Daniel and Amara's story moved you, please subscribe to Soul Stirring Stories and hit that hype button to support our channel. Every like, comment, and share helps us bring more soul-healing stories to life, stories that remind us of the quiet power of kindness and connection. Until next time, stay warm, stay kind, and never stop believing in love's quiet magic. Soul-Stirring Stories, where every story touches a soul.